Hey buddy, hope you're traveling well. Badrinath is a place that needs no introduction at all. So, undoubtedly, a destination that makes a part of the actual Chardham. While when we talk about Chardham, a lot of people consider Badrinath, Kedarnath, Gangotri, and Yamunotri to be a part of the Chardham circuit. But a lot of people don't know that Gangotri, Yamunotri, Badrinath, and Kedarnath, the ones in Uttarakhand, makes the Chota Chardham. The actual Chardham is Puri Jagannath, Dwarka, Badrinath, and Rameshwaram. So, Badrinath is pretty much the only place from Uttarakhand that makes its way into both the Chardhams. Well, the history of how Chardham came into existence is a pretty interesting story. Honestly, we can't call it history because nothing concrete has been documented and hence most of it is debatable. But nevertheless, the stories are fairly convincing and pretty interesting. Fine. It dates back to the era of Shankaracharya, which is the 8th century CE. Hinduism's biggest rival back then was Buddhism, and it is believed that over half of the population of the country was being converted into Buddhist. Not to mention what we term as Hinduism today itself was split as Saivism and Vaishnavism. For folks who do not know, Saivites are Shiva worshippers and Vaishnavites are Vishnu worshippers. And back then in the era before Adi Shankaracharya, both were considered to be two distinct faiths. Adi Shankaracharya traveled across the country bringing about major upgrades to Hinduism to tackle Buddhism. He did it on both a philosophical front and in a spiritual front. One of the core elements of his contribution was to incorporate travel into Hinduism. He established matas at all four corners of the country, which later became what we now call the Chardham. Matas being, the equivalent to monastic order. Most Hindus believe completing the Chardham yatra gets them moksha, which in other words, entry into heavens. I'm not sure of that, but go around Badrinath, you will not need to seek any separate moksha. There are not many places in the world where you can get to the base camp of 6,000 meters plus peak in a car, and Badrinath is definitely one of them where the Neelkant towers the town. Most people who made a trip to Badrinath don't even see the Neelkant peak. It's yet another example of how some of us fail to see the real deal when we are so obsessed with what's obvious. Even in terms of idol worshipping, when you take a closer look at the Neelkant peak, it does look like, Shiva's head, and you have a lot of blue eyes on its flank, and hence the name Neelkant. As for the temple itself, it has gone through a lot of changes through millennia. So obviously it has a lot of stories attached to it. It is believed that Adi Shankaracharya found the idol buried under snow near the sulfur springs next to where the temple is built. If you take a closer look at the Badrinath temple itself, you will see that it actually doesn't look like a typical Hindu temple. Take a look at the other three shrines in Uttarakhand, for example, Gangotri, Yamunotri and Kedarnath. Their architecture looks similar. But when you look at Badrinath, it actually looks like a monastery. And some believe that the temple was converted into a Buddhist monastery during Ashoka's reign. And then again, Shankaracharya converted it back to a Hindu temple. There are many stories on which the temple was built. One of the most popular stories being Lord Vishnu once meditated there, and to protect him from the extreme cold, goddess Lakshmi took the avatar of a Badri tree, and that's how it got the name Badrinath. But there is another story that originates from the local folklore. Most Hindus know that the Himalayas are a realm ruled by Lord Shiva. Once when Shiva and Parvati were taking a stroll on the mountains, they come across a young boy. Parvati finds the boy too pretty that she wants to adopt him, and Shiva recognizes him, and he proposes that they walk away. But Parvati is adamant on taking the boy along, and finally Shiva ends up giving a nod to what his love asks for. And once Parvati takes the boy's hand, Vishnu takes his large Divya Darshan form, and hence it gets the name Badri Vishal. And if you take a look at the idol of the main deity in the temple, you can recognize it as a small boy. The moment Vishnu becomes his son, Shiva proposes that they leave Badrinath to their newly adopted son, but Vishnu insists that his newfound parents stay with him. Shiva then decides that Vishnu stays back in Badrinath for half a year during summer, and for the other half, that is during winter, when Vishnu descends to warmer lower reaches, Shiva will reside in Badrinath. And it is because of this belief that Badrinath idol comes down to either Pandakeshwar or Joshimath in winter. Hope you guys found the stories interesting. See you next week with another video. Until then, travel more, travel safe. Bye.